You are going to listen to an audiobook today called The Mastery of Money. In it, we'll look at some mysterious ideas that will help you get the money you want in life. You don't have to become a millionaire or very, very wealthy to have enough money to get through this life and buy the experiences you need for yourself and your loved ones. You should also feel like the money and experiences are coming to you naturally as a result of the love and creativity you put out there, instead of the idea that you have to work hard and struggle to make them happen. That's pretty much how I deal with mysterious money. I teach people how to boost their energy. People will be drawn to you when you become more life force and power. These people will show up. They'll crawl over the walls and under the doors and even lower themselves through the roof. They'll be there. You have to bill them when they show up. To basically make money, you need to be able to bill these people. This means you need to be organized and have a product, service, or something else you can give these people when they show up in your life. If you raise your energy and all these people show up, but you don't know how to work with them, you won't have the wealth, creativity, or an energy pattern that will last. Also, a lot of you will need money. That stuff is going to be very important for you to buy those events and make the changes you want to see in your life. The actual plane doesn't seem like it was made for rich people when you look at it. All of the people in the world would be rich if we shared all of the world's wealth with them. Some people have a lot of money, though, because the system is set up in a way that keeps most people from having any. And because it's that way, and has been that way for thousands and thousands of years, the average person has to use a lot of spiritual energy to get out of a system that isn't meant to help them. That would be like going to work and making, say, $2 million in a week. You'd think, Friday, I think I'll retire from now on. But that's not how the system works. The system is set up so that if you work really, really hard, it will give you just enough money to keep you above what I call the revolution level. This means that you're not out in the street tearing the system apart, but they give you just enough to keep you going so that you don't blow it away. A small group of people own the world we live in. Let's say that 500 to 1,000 families own the whole thing. Okay. Plus, they control all the financial institutions, including the banks, the states, the societies, and the interest rates you pay. They also decide how much rent you pay, what mortgage terms you get, and even your car payments. They make all the choices for you and decide how much money the average person will have. As an example, if you're a small businessman and you just opened a new store, you'll do it in that energy pattern of control and restriction. Keep everyone in line, give them just enough so they don't rebel, but don't give them too much, because we don't want these people to rise up, become too powerful, and start taking away the power that the big people have. Take a look at that. If you're a small business owner with a great idea and want to start a business, you can only make money from the energy of the people around you, which brings up the question of how much money those people have to spend on your goods if they are close to going hungry or barely making it. This means that everyone is touched, whether they work for a big company, as a small business owner, or for the government. It's pretty much affecting all of us that it's not made for the average person. The world is not made for the people. It's made to support the governments, the institutions, and the philosophies. And you, the average working people, are always the ones who have to pay the price. You've heard me say that a lot of times in this seminar and others. Everything is on you. You have to pay for your mistake. Things go wrong, and you have to pay for them. You can see that the only way to get out of those feelings and this training that is basically meant to hold you down is to have a stronger will than the will that is trying to control you. And you have to make an energy pattern inside of you, kind of like how much you'd want to swim to the surface if you were swimming along at the bottom of the pool, holding your breath. Do you know how hard it would be for you to get up, leave that, and take a deep breath? And that's how hard it is for some of us to become financially independent and good with money, because our societies don't teach us how to be powerful. It is taught to us that we are weak, guilty and useless, that we should support and give money to everything else, that none of us are really for ourselves, and that if we do too well, it takes us away from being holy, moral, or good. That's not true, of course, because the life force, also known as the God force, is very strong. Nature will give you everything you believe in and more. There are more rats on an apricot or cherry tree than you can eat. You should know that it has too many cherries to eat, and when you look at it, it automatically has that wonderful wealth. For example, if a man designed an apricot tree, it would have 2 tiny stale apricots at the very top that would be out of reach. You'd be able to climb in and get a certificate showing that you did so. After that, someone else would own 1/3 of the apricot, leaving you with just the pit and a small amount of apricot. You know, when you look at the system, that's how it's made. When you look at the physical plane, we are these divine beings, these endless beings with bodies, and you have the power to completely shift and change your life through your thoughts and feelings. I believe that you are not your body, your mind, or your sexuality. I believe that you are an endless being inside a body, and that you took on the limits of the physical plane so that you could go beyond them. People who live on the physical plane are scattered around in a circle shape. This circle is made by the brain's electromagnetic waves, which make the field or force field that we all live in. That force field separates us from the life force, the God force, and other dimensions of reality. It also makes us believe that what we see is real. But the planes you see are not solid any more than your thoughts are solid. The thoughts you have inside you are the only things that are real. The fact that the plane is going at the speed of light makes it look like it is real. Although it seems like a solid world, what you're really seeing is a world of thought forms and awareness. Your body is the same thing, and your thoughts and feelings are all different forms of the same energy. You can see that experts are getting closer and closer to a unified force field theory, which means that all energy will be the same. That's how I feel, and that's the kind of spiritual and magical view. I think that as a person, you can be in this circle of activity that describes the physical plane. You can scratch, hollow, thump, scream, rip people off, compete with them, shove and push, and make a lot of money. You can pull yourself away from the show and the situation. But the way I do things makes me feel more fluid and easy. And the main thing you need to do is work on your goals, your focus, and your habits so that money comes to you easily. The other way, where you have to scratch and bite to get money, makes it seem like your wealth makes someone else poor. My way, on the other hand, lets you get rich and then makes everyone else richer through your wealth. There doesn't seem to be a limit to how much is out there or how much money you can have. Every day, millions of dollars are lost and left behind, and people die while leaving it behind, like they were carrying a bag. There are a lot of ways to make money with no work at all, and getting rich won't hurt anyone else because we don't live in a world with limited resources or wealth. More resources are always being found. More creative ways of doing things are always being found, and the amount of money always grows. And as a person, you're telling them, listen, I'm happy to focus on making money. Because I know that if I don't work on making money, I won't have anything, you know? If you think about the ghost rapist too much, it will appear out of nowhere and bite you on the behind. And if you think about money, you get money. But society and the way we teach our kids make them not care about money. We teach our kids, hey, it's not okay to be rich, you know? The meek will inherit the earth. The God force doesn't want you to be rich. It just wants you to be this little thing and be poor and be very thankful for the little itty-bitty that you got. But of course that's not true. That's just nonsense that has been passed down for thousands of years, you know? Nothing matters to the life force when it comes to your well-being. It doesn't care how much money you have or don't have. If you're doing great, it will help other people because you'll be spending money and hiring people, which are both good economically and creatively. We live in a world where everything is set up to stop us from becoming powerful, even though becoming powerful is good for the world. Some people say that your mind starts to remember every thought, event, and thing that's ever been said to you as soon as you enter the physical plane, or even before you're born. You can hypnotically put someone in a trance and take them back to a party they went to when they were 11 years old. They will tell you how many people were there, what their names were, how many cans of Coke they drank, how many packets of Jell-O they ate, and who did what. Everything is in your life. You remember everything, even the number of steps you took from the parking lot to your seat right now. You picture this little baby lying there and taking it all in. Again, it comes from parents who believe working hard is worth it, and that you need to do it to get through this life. Let me ask you a question. How many of you here believe or were told that you need to work hard to make money? Show me your hands. Okay, now you see what they did. The people who run this group of action did that because they wanted you to work for them. They need you to work hard for them. So, basically, we believe that working hard is a good thing to do, or that it's how you make money. Some people think that working hard is the only way to make money, but it's really more about being balanced and organized. People will want to be a part of your creativity and action as soon as you start to focus on it. They can feel your safety and power and decide to join you, paying you for it. You give them an idea, and they give you another idea called money. It's just a simple exchange of energy. When you look at that, you realize that it's like a small kid inside this body. It starts to take in all of these thought patterns without choosing what to do so. What goes in there is what goes in there. When your parents fight over the rent, that's what's going on in your mind. Again, if your mum likes to save and clip coupons, and there's a big stack of them in the kitchen, that's what's going through your mind. Save coupons, there won't be enough food. Save this, eat the leftovers, do this and that. As you move through the physical world, I'm not telling you to throw things away. I don't agree with that either. But we do what our parents or father and mother told us to do. And of course, a lot of us, our parents and grandparents, lived through the Great Depression and a lot of hard times. They can't say what a deeper, more open view of money is because of this. We live in the world's biggest and fastest moving capitalist society right now. At any given time, millions or billions of people are moving around. Still, we have this way of thinking that says a stitch in time saves 9, and a penny saved is a penny earned. And then we wonder what happens when we go out into the real world as teenagers, young adults, or workers. We start to resonate that into the life force, and the life force or energy that the force field that we're in reflects back to us exactly what we believe. It gives us back struggle. It gives us back there's not enough. It gives us back work for free, save your money in case something comes up. Everyone thinks that life is real, and as I already said, the circle is made by the electric energy that leaves your body. I think this energy is made by the brain waves oscillating. So when we look at this plane, we see a real plane that is all about controlling, limiting, and making sure you don't get away from the group. Okay, as you move through the physical plane, you take in all the energy as well as everything you hear, feel, and have ever been told. You're taking in energy below the level of awareness, and you have no idea that you're doing it. We know that the mind can hear statements that are 40 decibels below normal hearing because we sell subliminal tapes in our stores and other places. So, we have a track of music that goes up and down, getting louder and softer. Under this track of music is a loop tape that plays these very powerful statements that are meant to change how people act. And even though that loop goes up and down with the music, it always stays 40 decibels lower than the music when you can hear it. Based on our research and study done at other universities in the US, we know that the mind hears and accepts your words. As you go through life, you might wonder how many sounds, feelings, and opinions are very weakening that you may not have chosen, but became a part of your mind. For example, someone 2 lines or aisles to the right might pick up a can of beans and go, look at the parts of those beans, the world's F. You are the result of everything that people around you think and feel, as well as what society and your parents told you you couldn't have. If you sit next to someone in this crowd, you can't help but pick up on whatever they're feeling. Their feelings are coming through and affecting yours, okay? You can move seats during the break if you want to, but basically, if someone touches you or looks at you, energy moves between you. Can you picture a young being coming into the physical plane without knowing how to do it and being harmed by all of this? They then send their energy into the universal law and get back exactly what they put in. They put in struggle, difficulty, hard work, and a feeling of not having enough, and the universal law gives them back that feeling. Then they can say, see, I told you life was really hard. We all got out of the same product. To get out of that energy pack, you have to push against it. You have to actually force yourself to let go and let the money do its thing. As I already said, mastery of money for me doesn't mean getting very, very rich. It means being in charge of your money so that you spend less than you earn and have enough money to buy all the things you could ever want in the real world. When you think about it, when you come up with a creative idea or product, it's energy that comes from your awareness. When you share it with other people, they like it and they give you money, which is also energy. You understand that money is neither good nor bad. If someone said, money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil, they obviously didn't have any. In the real world, you need money to buy food. You have to have it. To make matters worse, we were told that faith and money shouldn't go together. But if you meet someone who is truly spiritual, they'll have a lot of energy, which means they'll have a lot of money. In the past, around 500 BC, it was okay for someone to get away from the busy world and go up a mountain to sit under a banyan tree or any other tree they chose. They could do whatever they wanted while thinking about God's light. People there are very different from where you are now because you weren't born there, or if you were, you would be in business, traveling, or making things happen there. From what I can tell, you could ascend by pulling away and sitting on top of a rock, but once you had the power, you would have to use it in the real world. It was a time when there was nothing to do, so people came up with ideas about how to live in poverty and see it as beautiful and fair. Can't stand out. You can push back against it now that you remember that by saying, gosh, that's stressful, you know, that's terrible. What made them decide to make it that way? They made it because they like being in charge. They want to keep us all inside and never let us out. Okay, it's also impossible to push against. It won't help you to yell and carry your sign or stand in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. If you want to be free, you need to have enough money to date and take a break from the world's emotions and feelings so they don't control you, okay? I think that's very important because you've been told that you can't have it. And then the whole thing is planned. If any of you do too well, they'll take your money back. You spend almost all of your money on rent. You don't have any money of your own. To give you an idea, think about property taxes, all right? A little over 1% or 1.5% of that land is taken away from you every year, okay? The government can wait to get the house back from you because it lasts for hundreds of years. So let's say they take 1% of your house. In 1 generation, they'll have a quarter of your house. It wasn't their fault. They didn't pay you. There was no action. They took back a quarter of your house. Between them, they got half the house. They will own all of the land in the country in 4 generations. That's how property taxes work, right? So you believe they care about what's best for you? Not at all. They just take a small portion of your income back and they time or place it in a way that makes it seem like a creepy thing that you're not really aware of. And then all of a sudden you realize My goodness, I gave these people 9% of my house back now. What was I thinking? Do you know? Well, you did it because the law said you had to, and now you can't change your mind. I think it's important to follow the law, but I also think that you can plan your life so that it stays as flexible as possible within the law. You know, you use the tax system and the things you are allowed to do, that the people who run this circle give you some wiggle room to get stronger. You can see from that if you want to be powerful and have enough money, you need to first figure out what's stopping you from getting money. You know, why do I feel these things that keep me from being wealthy? Because there's only one place you can get money, and that's from other people on the real plane, because we're the only ones who believe in that stuff, okay? We are the only ones who can give it to you. You can't get it from anywhere else. So we have this energy that is completely neutral. You have to make that energy inside of you and then get these people to give you the money to do it. You need to ask yourself, hey, how do I really feel? Do you know? How do I really feel about money? And if you look at how we handle money, you can see that, say, you perhaps had feelings. I know for sure that I did. In the past, I believed that if I became too wealthy, it would separate me from the people I was living with. You know, somehow I feel like I might have to leave this slum if I do too well, you know, or if I do too well, my friends will stop liking me. You know, what if I do too well? It might not be as loving or strong as God wants for me. You know, I believed that God wanted me to be poor, you know. So, when you look at that, you can see that we have hundreds, no, thousands of these restrictions. You know the saying, a stitch in time saves 9. You know there's one. For God's sake, what does that mean? Throw it away and buy a new one if it tears. Okay, you're stitching everything for me. It's time to sew and do other things, you know. Oh, stitch, do you understand? What I mean is, will you get another? It's really that easy. We agree with that, though. One thing we buy is that women aren't good at figures, you know, as in, they're not good at math. In some way, that means they won't make as much money. And of course, women can do math just as well as anyone else. A simple $8 tool is all you need. You know you can work it up to $10 billion. Also, I do a lot of business with women. We travel the world and use a lot of women's skills in many areas. They know how to charge, you know. They understand how to make it work. It's really easy. It's like, here's $1,000, lady, and $25,000. Which one do you want? Do you know? It's pretty clear, right? You'll be very smart to figure that one out. That's why we buy that stuff. That's what we buy. We buy things like getting into a company and having them buy us food, you know. There are other kinds of limits, such as religious views that say someone is not holy if they are rich, or something like that. Then there are the limits that deal with things like, well, if I do too well, you know, no one will like me. Taking care of all this money will be such a burden if I do too well. What the hell am I going to do with all this cash? Do you know? I will have trouble if I do too well. I'll be responsible for all of these things. I have to defend it, and so on. We buy that stuff. There are philosophical limits to how you can relate to money, you know. There are different kinds of spiritual and religious limits. You know, sexual limits, right? If you're a minority, you might feel like you can't do as well in this society as the majority, like God or money knows what color your skin is, you know, and think, okay, I'm going to be mean to this guy because he's different or something. And when you look at that, you can see that all the people out there who live in a society or circle that isn't meant to help them do well with it anyway, with all the beliefs and limits they've picked up, you can see why they aren't rich, you know, why they never get paid. Let me ask you for a few examples of those normal limits that we all have and that are so much a part of our culture. You could look through them and pick out a few for me during your walk. Good job. Go save for a rainy day. My mom always told me about this one. It always rains when you save for a rainy day, right? That energy of putting in the bad things brings the rainy day to you, you know. You will be a part of a disaster just because you think you will be. And putting a bunch of dry food in a hole in the ground, because of that energy of defense, you put 2 machine guns on the roof and your grandmother there to protect the house and the street. What happens is that the disaster comes to you because of the negativity you're sending out. It will happen if you put this dry food in the ground. This moose will come along and eat its own food, which will eat your food. That's the end of your stock or stash. Do you know? Please give me some more if you have any. Money, don't tell anyone. Really, if you have money, don't tell anyone. They will either get mad or jealous, or they will try to steal it from you. Of course, that's not true at all. I think that when you're rich, you just feel rich. You don't want to brag too much about your money. You're too showy, but you need to spend the money. Being rich doesn't mean anything if you don't get rid of it. You're bound to be misusing it. And of course, that's nothing to do with that. You can have money and be loving and generous and kind and help the world, But isn't it interesting that we equate wealth with like some kind of misdemeanor or not acting honorably? And of course, that's not necessarily the case at all. Any other sayings? Money corrupts, yes. And of course, a lot of times it does, because money is power in our physical plane, and power is very, very hard to work with. And the whole point of experiencing power is, in a way, to misuse it, because that's the only way you really get to learn about it. But in the corruption is also the healing and the transcendence, and I think that's pretty important, Yeah, give us this day our daily bread, like there isn't going to be enough. Okay, like this little bit's coming up like welfare. Here's a little welfare. Any others? Yes, where money can't buy your love, but in fact, yes, it can. Okay, definitely. But the fact is, of course, that the way you get love is to express love, and it's nothing to do with money. It's, nothing to do with money. In fact, money can buy your love, if pushed to shove. But basically speaking, it's only a matter of expressing a loving attitude, and love will come to you anyway. Any others? Yes. Can we have a positive one? Money makes the world go round. Money makes the world go round, and of course it doesn't. The world spins automatically of its own. Yes, for emergencies. Okay, that's the same thing as we've said before, where you're waiting for the emergency to come. Beautiful people are rich. I'm sorry, I've got more than one coming at once now. Yes, only beautiful people are rich. That's not so true. I know a lot of ugly millionaires. Yeah, but you see how all of that stuff became so important, and all of that stuff became a part of our culture and a part of the way that we treat money. And of course, what you have to do now is to begin to resonate a powerful intention for your whole trip about money. Because when a person permeates that negativity or that weakness inside of you, because it is already there in your mind, there has to be an acceptance, You have to accept that if you're standing next to someone in the supermarket and they are preeminent projecting lack, if you have lack inside your mind, you actually enhance or increase the lack that you have. Okay, the only way you can come out of power is to not have it in your mind, or to have this forward projection of energy, this expanding energy that feels, yes, I can, yes, I will, I have it all around me, this is a flowing situation, and there's no problem with the amount of money that's going to come to me in my life. When you resonate your feelings, if they change moment by moment as to what you feel about yourself, if you feel negative, you begin to create inside of you a feeling that pulls energy to it in a kind of imploding or coming in parabola of energy or curve of energy. And negativity has a way of resonating, so it sucks other feelings towards it. So if you're negative, you're pulled to you somebody else that is equally negative. If you're negative, you'll pull to yourself energy patterns that are disastrous or tend to fall apart. And at the top of the curve, it's just little niggly things that go wrong. The car won't start and this happens, and the handle comes off the bathroom door, that kind of stuff. But then, bit by bit, as you begin to resonate the negativity after a long period of time, then suddenly the whole energy pattern begins to break up around you, and the whole thing drops on your head and collapses on top of you. You know, whether it's a financial collapse or whether it's a collapse of your physical body or collapse of a relationship or some situation, it's because through the negativity you pull that to you, and by pulling it to you, you suck from the physical plane, and you suck only those parts that are congruent to you. If you imagine yourself walking along in this bubble of energy, okay, all of life is coming at you at the speed of light, and it's coming at you upside down. Okay, at the speed of light, and you have all of these possibilities coming at you at any one given moment. Okay, and you will pull from those feelings that are the same as your feelings, that are congruent with your feelings. So all the goodness in the world is coming at you, and all the evil is coming at you, and then you can pick up whatever you want. And so you kind of filter through your own feelings those experiences that are exactly the same as what you feel. And so as you maintain in this avnish, a negative energy pattern or a pattern of limitation or lack, it begins to pull in on you, and it pulls from the physical plane all of those things that are exactly the same. The only way to defend yourself against that, the only way to really develop a power inside of yourself, is for you to begin to pull out of you this transcendent, infinite, abundant feeling from within you. When you express positively, it creates an outgoing or exploding curve of energy. It's like this outgoing feeling. Not only is it warm, is it fresh, is it loving, but it inspires people because it's pure life force. It's pure confidence. And it's not like sort of confidence that you wear on your sleeve, which is real sort of pushy type of confidence, but it's basically confidence of feeling everything's okay. And as you resonate that energy outwards, the more and more power that you put out into the world, the more you allow that infinity and that abundance to come from your feelings, the less the negativity of the other people pulls you down. Because you cannot walk in a crowd of people, say, in a supermarket, go in a shopping mall, without having all of those people affect you. And you've all experienced it where you've got out of a car and you've walked into a mall and you've only walked like maybe 100 yards or 200 yards and you've bought like a can of something and you walk back to your car and you're absolutely exhausted. You had that experience, right? And it's because what happens is, as you walk through that mall, your feelings are resonating around you, and everybody else is literally taking a bit of that energy from you. Every time they have eye contact with you, every time they touch you, every time they pass you, a part of you leaves with them, unless you're resonating this everlasting supply from within yourself and resonating it powerfully and strongly. Then what happens is, you get into the habit of holding your energy, holding that power to yourself. And it's the same way, again, with money. If you feel confident about it, it begins to be there. It's like natural. But you can't come from way down here in a state of, let's say, limitation and poverty, to something up here where you're walking with or part of absolute abundance. If you resonate poor feelings, you have to stay poor, because universal laws got to reflect that. And so the name of the game as you begin to master money is 1. Allow yourself the patience to go beyond the old stuff, the old garbage, and to begin to resonate in your feelings, the abundance that you're a part of. And here you have to be very, very careful, because a lot of people begin to think, oh yeah, all I've got to do is act abundant, act powerfully, act transcendent, buy a lot of stuff, buy a lot of fancy clothes, and abundance will come to me. In fact, what you've got to do is you've got to begin to see abundance in those things that you actually have. Okay? It's not a matter of going out and spending a lot of money on French clothes or something and then being in debt, because that very fact that you're in debt is going to pull you backwards. It's more like saying, okay, around me I have this, and I see beauty and abundance in it. And then, as you begin to become more confident, and you have more surplus income, you can begin to create affirmations of abundance in your feelings that actually affirm, hey, I'm doing fine. You should go out and buy a good suit because I'm fine. Have one of everything, a nice dress, a nice pair of shoes, anything, but have one of the very, very best quality. If you go for the cheap and cheerful and the discount, it always has that energy, you know. A discount is like a vacuum cleaner. It has the energy of a discount vacuum cleaner. I remember that my wife found this vacuum cleaner at a used machinery shop, which is a store that sells used appliances. She was so proud of herself because she got it for $15, but it looked like a $15 vacuum cleaner, so I thought she got ripped off. When she plugs it in, there's this weak little bag hanging off the back of it, like it's just holding on for dear life. I told her, don't do anything. That bag should be like full of air and abundant and happy with itself. She says, yeah, you know, I think you're right. She was vacuuming his room, and while it went over dust and pieces of paper, they just jumped up and then fell back down. If a computer made a noise, you could tell that nothing was coming up off the carpet. I thought, this isn't a very good way to vacuum the carpets. Then, as she was spinning that stupid thing around, the wheel came off. As it did so, it made this very gentle curve as it went around the carpet, and then came back around in a half circle to the other side of the room. As the wheel went around the room, it naturally picked up some dust. I looked at it and thought, that's how this vacuum cleaner works. It shoots little wheels that pick up dust that is very small. You know, the only energy you'll ever have is when you buy something on sale. You can go inside and see this vacuum cleaner. This cool thing was made underwater by prisoners in Brazil, and it only costs $9. It has that energy because she says, take it. So I tell you that you can start spending money on things that are important to you once you feel like you have power over your life and your money. I'd always choose the best. I'd just have fewer of them, you understand. If you only have one suit, make sure it's a good one that you look good in. So at least when you go to the interview, you should feel like, I feel abundant, I act abundant. But don't go completely crazy and spend a lot of money. After adopting this attitude, I've seen people do just that and get into a lot of problems. You know, once you start feeling those things, they have to be a part of your whole life. You can't have, say, one nice dress and then buy cheap shoes for $1.99. You know the kind. You can always tell people to buy their shoes because wealthy people are the only ones who do that. You know, that buy good shoes. You'll get something that's wearing this amazing dress and these shoes that look like they're made of plastic, and you can figure it out. You know, you can say, oh my gosh, look at that. When someone comes in for an interview wearing a nice dress and shoes, you can tell that they feel strong and good about themselves. Also, obviously, how much money you make is very closely connected to how good you feel about yourself. This is because the ego's job is to find a way to stay alive. Trying to get loved by the people the ego wants to love it is part of its job, you know. People want to love you, so when we go out into the market, we often charge less or nothing at all to get people to accept us. The same thing happens when we let what other people think about us take over our lives. You just live your life if you don't care what other people think of you. They should worry about what they think about you, not you. After that, you can set your own prices for your services. You can charge as much as you think is fair if you're running out of time, energy, dedication, or service. As you know, I don't believe in ripping people off or charging too little, but I also don't believe in charging too little either. A lot of you don't charge enough for your work or your products because you think, oh my gosh, I'm not really worthy for all of this, which makes you think, I really shouldn't be charging that, or they're not going to love me if I don't charge, you know, if I charge so much. You don't have to feel bad about how much things cost, though, if you can see the things you do in life as energy exchanges. In business, the higher the quality, the higher the price, and at the very top, you can charge whatever you want. So you're going to try to put energy and yourself into your business ventures, no matter what they are. You know, a lot of the time when you go somewhere, like a business or a hotel, the energy is dull, you know. It's confined, so no one is in it and no one cares. When you press a button, this thing comes out, and you don't feel good about giving your money away. It doesn't matter when you're with someone who is excited, happy, and putting their whole heart into the result. It gives you strength because you can feel the life force and the God force. It's almost like sending money to a different part of yourself. People feel like they've lost something when the other person is demanding, doesn't care, or acts like they belong in a group. Oh my gosh, I paid for this room, but I don't really like it, you think. It really comes down to putting yourself into your business life, and that's important. You can help other people when you can control your own ego and put it below the ego of your customers or the people who are drawn to your life. That doesn't mean you'll lose your sense of who you are, because you won't. To get what you want, though, you have to serve other people. Serving someone is like looking them in the eye and asking what they want. When you talk to someone, remember that they may be scared, lonely, or having body pains. They have a need, whether it's friendship, company, or something else. That's because what they came into your life might not be the result, you know. They may have come around for a completely different reason, like to heal in some way. Putting yourself under them makes them feel supported, and everyone wants to feel safer and more supported, because the game out there is basically being scared, nervous, and afraid of the fact that you don't always have power over your life. As a result, you become this sure of yourself, happy, brave being, and you rise up under the person and stop being of service. In Washington, D.C., I was going to a meeting when something happened to me that I'll never forget. There was a young waitress there. He came up to me by chance in the room. He asked, "What is the secret of tips?" I replied, "Tim, the secret of tips is to get underneath the customers, you know, to get underneath and really serve them." He asked, "What do you mean by that?" I replied, "What I mean is that for as long as it takes you to serve this person and be with them, you'll put their needs above your own. This way, you won't be thinking things like, 'Oh my goodness, when does this shift end? And look at this guy. I really don't like the way he's dressed. And oh my goodness, he's asked me for some more peanuts. And well, goodness me, I'm rushing around.' You're asking, 'How can I help you, sir? What can I do for you?' Like, would you like ice? Would you like lemon? What would you like? Would you like it on this side of the glass or that side of the glass? Would you like another pillow or another cushion? What can I get for your lady wife? What does she like? I won't refuse to do anything for you while you're in my care. You want me to walk your canary while you have a drink? No problem, you know." I told this young waiter about coming out of loving them and serving them, and he went to my seminar. When I got back from the seminar, he came up to me and said, "This is crazy. I've never had a day like this before. In all the time I've been away to this hotel, the most tips I've ever gotten in one shift was $42. I got less than $160 in tips for the first time during this shift." This young man had tripled his tips just by serving. And isn't it true that everywhere you go, you'll find average restaurants, hotels, airlines, you name it? You walk in, and they don't even bother to greet you. They're not organized and aren't interested in what you want, you know. You feel like, hey, I'm not a customer, I'm not a person, so you don't buy or limit how much you buy, and you don't feel this power and expansion inside you. And so, as each of you begins to look in terms of developing a way of becoming independently wealthy or developing some kind of creativity so that it gives you more wealth, all you really have to do is serve, and serve is energy, and the people give you back another energy called money, and then you go spend that on the experiences you like, which is, again, energy. And I think that's vital, and that, to me, is the key. that there isn't anything more than just coming out of service, coming out of being organized, And being organized is a simple thing. You just get organized. You get paid. What do I need to make this business work? You know what my customers are going to want. And when you can subjugate your ego and put yourself in the mind of the customers, in the mind of the people that are going to come to you, then it isn't a problem to figure out what they're going to want. They're going to want to be comfortable. They're going to want to do it quickly or reasonably quickly, whatever it is. They're going to want it to work. They're going to want to be able to have value for money. They may want more than one way of paying for it, but basically speaking, what do they want? And then, if you begin to concentrate on making it clean and fresh and beautiful, people respond. And isn't it true that as you go out in the physical plane, most of it isn't clean, isn't fresh, doesn't work, I mean, you turn the handle on the door and it comes away in your hand. You press the button in the elevator and it doesn't go any place. You put 50 cents in the Coke machine and no Coke comes out, And the whole of the world is like that. It's sort of this only just working sort of syndrome, And of course, if you move out of, say, America, and you go to other places, you have even more experience of things not working, So, for example, in England, whenever I travel there, I try to make all my international calls back to America before I actually leave America, because trying to get an international operator on the English Scholar phone system, forget it. You can grow old, You can grow old. I've only met 1 or 2 people that ever actually got through, And as you look at that, you can see how so much of it doesn't work, and so much of it isn't there to help you. Why is this money mastery thing so important to you? Because we're living in a very important time in the world's financial history right now. There are banks in the United States whose average liquidity is only 6%. In the years leading up to 1929, the average American bank's liquidity dropped from about 20% to 12%, which caused a lot of worry. Today, the average American bank has after the oil crisis in the 70s, and the war in the 70s, and in the war in the Middle East, the sheer amount of money that poured into the American banking system and the big financial houses of Europe and so on, that money came pouring in the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. And the banks had to lend it out. When a bank takes your money, when it takes your deposit, that's a liability for the bank. The minute they can give it to somebody, lend it to somebody, it becomes an asset in their books. And so there's a tremendous book in City for the banks to kind of get rid of this stuff. It's almost like this hot potato that they're trying to shove on to the next guy. And so when the oil prices went up, in the 70s, these banks went out and they kind of gave the money to everybody. They just dolloped it out and said, hey, you need some cash, take it. And all of the countries out there of the third world and the lesser developed countries and so on, they took that money and they spent it. And they spent it like crazy on all sorts of projects that may or may not have assisted the infrastructure of those countries. It's now very hard to get the money back from those countries. America gave money to every country in the world, its enemies and its friends. The only country they haven't given money to is Albania, and they wouldn't give it to them because they'd get fined if they did. If they could find Albania, they'd give them so much money. When oil recently dropped from its high point of $33.50 a barrel, the American people sent money to Mexico so that Mexico could send it back to the bank so that no one would default. It's like you're being charged as a common man for something that doesn't affect you. For example, corporate debt in this country. The government has basically continued to print money like crazy in order to try to keep the system up. After 1946, all the major trading nations agreed to come off the gold standard, which meant that all of a sudden money didn't have to be real anymore, because in the olden days a dollar bill was a receipt for some gold someplace, and in theory you could cup and you could say, hey, I want my gold, Well, I want to look at me dollar bill or whatever it is, what you do when you go in the bank. But basically speaking, once all these countries came off the gold standard, there wasn't any limit to how much money the governments could create. And here in America, since 1980, the government has expanded the money supply 300%, but the country's only grown like 25 to 30% in that period of time. And so when you have a situation that the people that control all of the activity inside the circle can literally print money, you can see how there's a lot of money out there that really doesn't have any value at all. It's just a matter of everybody believing in it and the banking system. Everybody's got to believe in it, and that's why the common man never gets any of the information. They only get little bits of the information, because if anybody actually told you what was actually going on, you'd freak out and you'd go get your money back. You can see that personal debt has grown to the point where the average person owes about 1.5 years' worth of wages, that corporate debt is 50% of assets, that the government is running trillion-dollar deficits, and that trade figures are so off that they're more than they're bringing in every month. All of this is putting a strain on the economy. You can either tell yourself, wait a minute, there's something going on here. I'm sure everything will be okay. I don't have the facts in front of me. There's something wrong in the third world that I can't fix. I can't change the fact that there are record numbers of bank failures in the country right now, more than even in the years before the Great Depression or the crash of 1929. That's not my job to fix. I can't fix the ones that don't work. You know what? I can't stop all of these scams with trash bonds and other things. All I can do is take charge of my own life. If there's ever a liquidity crisis in the world, and it looks like there will be because we can't keep making new money and spending it all the time, cash will become king. You'll feel like God if you have cash on hand. You'll be able to buy things with it. Recently, near my hometown of Taos, they sold off a bunch of houses that had been repossessed for mortgages. It's not possible to build a family home for $21,000. This shows that if you ever have a cash flow problem or shortage, if you have cash on hand, you can buy things you've always wanted for half the price or a quarter of the price. You will feel empowered. You know you can go out and spend $10,000, and when you get home at night, your husband will say, "See what you've been up to." You say, "I went shopping. You should know that I own this whole street." Some of you saved your whole lives for that stuff. That cash is going to be king soon, and the only way to get it is to spend less than you earn. You need to have fiscal discipline, which means looking at what you want and starting to calm down. You might ask me, "Stu, how do I get rid of my debts and build up my cash flow?" As you pay off your debts, your energy starts to calm down. You feel less out of control, and the money-making opportunities you need will come to you. But you have to be organized, focused, and sure of what you want. Then you have to start going after it. And if you can't go after what you want in life right now, because you're stuck at work, keeping everything running, at least you can start playing. You can begin to move towards it, you know. Like if you're pumping gas in a gas station and you want to be a film director, well, you begin to resonate an intention for that. You go to film school in the evenings, buy books on film directing, and watch films. Maybe you join an amateur filmmaking club, but you're moving towards your goal. So often, people find themselves like down here, and they hope that they can pull their energy up here, and they never make it. You have to move towards whatever it is you want, and as you move towards it, it's almost like the energy comes around you and supports you to get what you want. Which means that, of course, you've got to be clear about what you want. You have to have clarity. You've got to know what it is you want, and we've spoken about that in the past, have we not? But it's mostly a matter of deciding, hey, what do I want for my life right now? What do I want later on? And what do I want later on? And concentrating on the right now. And of course, if you're not clear about what it is you want, then you begin a program of getting rid of all the encumbrances and all that stuff that's around you so that you can have what you want. so that you are clear about what you want, and then you develop this high clarity about who you are, what your mission is in life, what your gift to the people is. Like, hey, what are you going to give people? You know you're at this all right being. You understand yourself. You've got perception that other people will never have. You've got energy they'll never have, creativity that they can't even dream of. And what are you going to give them? What are you going to give them when they show up? And you have to have that clear in your mind as you develop high clarity, as you develop high resonance, which is basically moving towards your goal, resonating this intention, resonating the whole idea all of the time, bit by bit. The universal law has to give it to you. And it's only a matter of coming out of control. It's only a matter of controlling the situation, dominating the situation, and seeing what opportunities there are in order for you to be able to be in the marketplace. You have to have something that you're going to offer. And so each one of you is going to have to develop a skill or some kind of service or knowledge, or you're going to have to get into control of a product. And you've got to have something. And so often people want to make money, but they don't have anything. So if you haven't got that, you're finished. You haven't got a chance. You've got to have it. It's got to be neat. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be exciting. And it's got to be there for when people show up. So like a skill would be like you're a plumber, or you do something that other people can't do, and you do it for them, but you do it in an unusual and creative and exciting way, When you roll up at the front door and you're in this big polystyrene bubble, that looks like a sort of a spanner or something. People say, "What are you?" You say, "I'm the plumber," and it's musical. And that becomes a little hat, And I think, oh, this is incredibly interesting. This is really different. Most plumbers shop in little oily overalls, grumbling and moaning about how lousy plumbing is, and this guy shows up in his chicken outfit or whatever it is. I always had this idea of a loan package where you'd get all the details of the loan you wanted when you went to the bank. It was this incredibly beautiful long package, and then you would train these Kethri canaries to sing, and when you open up the loan package, the canaries would go, "Give us the loan, give us the loan, give us the loan." I imagine a bank looking at you and you telling them, "Hey, listen, what I want to do is open this flea circus, and by the way, it's these 3 canaries that we've taught to say, 'Give us the loan, give us the loan.' Do you know, it's like the bank would understand you. They may not lend you the money, but they would understand the creativity there. So as you decide that you've got, either have something that the rest of the world has, in God's, was a skill, or you've got to have some kind of knowledge. And we live in the most powerful, most information-conscious world that there's ever been, and there are 4.9 billion people out there, and they all want to know something, They want to do the courses, they want to get slim, they want to be more beautiful, they want to be more protective, they want to learn to do acupuncture for canaries or whatever they want to learn to do. And you could say, well, I happen to have this incredible course that you can do. And in fact, information transfer is now one of the major industries in the world. And so all you've got to do is either have the information or acquire it, and then begin to figure out how to transfer it to other people. Of course, if you happen to be, say, for example, a lawyer, then the information you can impart, you have to do one-to-one. I personally prefer information transfer, where you can get a lot of information out to a lot of people without being there personally yourself. So there's videos and tapes and books and 1,001 other ways of you transferring information to people. But if you have that information, people will pay you. And the reason they'll pay you is because they haven't got time to learn everything themselves. They haven't got time to do it all themselves. They want you to come along and tell them, "Hey, how's it done?" So you've got the possibility of a skill, you've got the product possibility of a service or knowledge, or you've got the possibility of a product. And of course the product is by far and away the easiest way of making money, usually, because there isn't usually any limit to how many products you can manufacture, ship, and get paid for, you know. Knowledge has its limitations in many ways, as a skill or service has this limitation because you have to show up personally and do it. But a product has that incredible neatness that if it works for taming it, it'll work for 100. It'll work for 5 million. And you know, I've heard stories of people that have started companies that have literally made $40 million in the first 9 months of the company, and they had a good product, and they got a lot of people excited about the product, and they got them selling this product to other people, serving the community, giving amiss stuff, and they generated 40 million in 9 months from a standing start. So if you have something that is a product, you're in a position to transfer that to other human beings and get paid for it. I think the important thing to remember about a product is that it has to be something that you love, that you live and breathe, you know. If you're selling these little multi-swivel toggle flanges and you love them, great. But if you're selling something that's boring and doesn't work for you, and you don't like it, and it isn't quality, and it doesn't honor the people, and it comes out of negativity, your heart will never be in it. And isn't it true and isn't it delightful when you meet a person who's into what they do, you know, and you go in the hardware store, and I'd hate hardware stores. They give me the creeps just to walk in them, you know. I don't like do-it-yourself. I don't like fixing things. I'm lousy at that stuff. And just to walk in and all those little oily boxes, I mean, it just blows me away. And so if you go in and the guy's all happy and smiling and he's the sage of the oily boxes, you feel nurtured, you know. You feel nurtured. You feel, oh, this guy really knows. And you don't know. You may ask all those dumb questions, you know, don't they? They say, well, do you need the 16/3/4 of a 16-inch double swivel reverse diddly-diddly? And you say, I don't know, you know. I just want a screw that'll hold up off the mirror. Yeah, but do you want the kind that's the double bolt with the whammy-jammy on it, you know? And you don't want to know, you know? You just want a guy to give it a bolt. You don't care what it costs. You haven't got time to figure it out. You don't want to do like a 4-week course in little bolts. You just want a bolt. And so you feel supported. And so often we go in stores and the attendant will say to you, the shopkeeper, whatever, oh, I don't know. You know, I just work here. Does this, that, it. You know what I mean? They have no idea. It doesn't bother them. They aren't interested. Of course, you have to be really good at what you do if you want to be spiritual beings and help people by giving them something. It's important to put in as much effort as you can. Get your stuff together. There needs to be coordinated movement in the market. All the mantras, thoughts, and other stuff out there, including prayers, won't help you unless you have a clear plan for what you want to do. It's something you love, live, and breathe, and you're thrilled to give it to people. It's easy. It's really very easy. To be more successful in business, you just need to grow. And that growth gets out of hand all the time. It always starts with being in charge of your surroundings, realizing that you can charge as much as you want. What about you? How many of you are going to raise your prices next week? Look around. Yes, but how many of you really believe in yourself? There you have it. People have come up to you and said, well, isn't this massage normally $40? You know, I understand now you're charging $80. You say, yeah, I'll charge $80 this week. I feel good about myself. Next week I'll feel even better, $260, you know, and you start to charge. They won't mind paying for it, though, if you put yourself in it. That being said, this whole philosophy is really about breaking free from what the world says you can be, and the limits they say you have to live by, becoming clear on what you want, resonating that intention for yourself, that is, moving toward it, making it clear, making a power around you, and going on out. And some of you will have to move slowly from, say, something that's holding you back to this new kind of freedom you're creating for yourself. But you start to make it happen. You can start making it by taking up a hobby, for example. 1 million of you have hobbies that can make you money. A few of the guys I know have turned their hobbies into multi-million-dollar companies. Well, these are things that you're interested in, and you can start to make connections and meet people. You see, if you don't go meet people, you make it so that you can't sell because you don't have enough people to meet. You could have a great idea, but if only you and your aunt and mum know about it, you only have 2 users, right? It's like saying, oh gosh, I've got this little energy, and I don't feel too confident about myself, and I don't feel too confident about this, so I won't bother telling anyone. I never have to face the fact that I'm not really sure of myself that way. But if you're good, really good, and you're coming from love or service, you won't mind growing, moving, trying new things, or meeting new people. You know, I tell people, listen, if you want to meet people, join churches. You know, it's a great place to meet people. You can give out your little card then, the breaks, you know, pass them out in the pews, and then just join as many churches as you can sign up for. You know, I mean, you join a Muslim church, and then you go to the synagogue on Saturday, join a couple of Christian churches on Sunday, especially those sort of open, positive, New Age, auto-Christian churches, you know, and then Monday you can get into some kind of wacko cult, you know, and you join them on a Monday when they have their services, and you just serve dishes there, passing out your cards. But people get to know you because I've watched people develop ideas that were really cute, that were really neat, and go out into the marketplace and have an initial burst of activity and then fizzle out, you know. And then suddenly they're despondent and they're upset, and they feel that their creativity isn't any good, and they wind up going back to what they used to do because they didn't have the force or the courage to push through to, like meeting people, talking to people, being with people. You get the point where you talk to 100,000 people a year. You've got a chance with your idea. When you get to where you talk to 1 million, you've got a real chance. When you get up to like 5 million, then you're really cooking, you know. When you get up to 50 million, forget it, you know. You'll have so much money you'll have to move out of the house and get a bigger one because it's people that are going to give you the cash. And it's you feeling confident about yourself and going up to these people, presenting them with the idea and knowing that they're going to love it. And the reason they're going to love it is because you designed it for them. You designed it for the people. You didn't design it for yourself. You didn't design it to look cute. You designed it for the people. So you'll come up with the only bar that has faucets that work with your feet, you know. And there you go, and you suddenly serve. Had this incredible idea for 2,000 years. They've always had these baths with these little wacko, little cross-shaped faucets you can't work with your feet. Now we've got the foot bath, and here's the pier. That's where you put your toe, and this is how you make it grow hotter and colder. And everybody will love you. They'll say she invented the bath faucet. She made it something because you don't have to do anything really different, you know. You don't have to come up with some incredible laser-operated sandwich-making machine. All you got to do is come up with something slightly different, you know. And you've heard me talk about the pizza parlor, where like you can be one pizza parlor in an entire society of pizza parlors where there's 17 in the street. But you could still make that pizza parlor so interesting that everybody's breaking their neck to come, you know. And there you are, you got your pizza parlor, and you've dug this big hole in the middle of it, and you got, let's say, like a 20-foot drop and some alligators in there, you know. And then you build this rickety little bridge from the front door of the pizza parlor to where the cash register is, where people order, you know, and you make this bridge so that it kind of wobbles a bit, you know. People say, well, isn't it dangerous? You say, yeah, we lose a few, but when they get to the other side of this bridge, they're hungry. Do you know what these people want? People come from miles away to see these alligators. Then we're going to add a waterfall to the roof. They'll get a little wet coming in, but they need to save up and know how to dry off. So we'll be in this street with a waterfall off the front of the pizza, a big hole with some alligators in it, and a little rickety bridge. People will be excited. In this case, you're not necessarily looking at making a great plan or going to business school. What you're looking at is a shift in your consciousness, a shift in your commitment, realizing that it's okay to be rich and that there's no limit to how much wealth you can create for yourself. Okay, you're going to get clear on what you want, resonate that intention, and P. Okay, by giving yourself time and being patient, you'll love the people who come to you because you serve them. And if you can come out of that love and caring for people, putting your ego aside for their needs, your life, your business, and your families will be flooded. You won't be able to handle how many people show up, but you'll be able to build them because you'll be organized, and you will dev.